Today's topic is how should we meet our tests? And it sounds very daunting, but I'm glad that we are able to start with such a joyful, uplifting song, because the test is not the test. We want to face our tests not with this grim feeling or with pressure, but with joy. Whatever the test is, I mean, we have many tests. Some are outwardly very big. You know, you've lost someone, you've lost something, or you have serious illness. And some tests are, other people don't even notice that you're going through the tests because it all happens within us, in our hearts. But whatever the test is, when we are going through it, when we are in the middle of it, we feel that often that we are overwhelmed and as if there is no end to it, no way out. But then I was reminded of this story of Buddha and a woman, a mother, who has just lost his son, young son, and she's still holding her son's dead body and came to Buddha and asks, "Please, I beg you, please bring my son back to life." And Buddha says, "Okay, but you have to do something for me before that. Go and get mustard oil from the house where there has not been any death." So she goes around knocking door to door, trying to get that oil. Soon she finds out that there's no such house that has not seen any death. Death is part of our life, part of every family, everyone. So she comes back to Buddha and she was able to accept her son's death. And any tests, all this, we sometimes behave like this woman because, the tests come right in front of our face. And we're like this, looking at the problem. What do you see? Only the problem. If we are able to step back, if you're able to distance yourself from the problem, what do you see? You see not only the problem, but everything around, the bigger reality that surrounds us. Then we are able to accept the fact that the test has come to us and face the test. And if not immediately, but slowly, we can work toward overcoming that test. Test is not the same as suffering. You don't always have to suffer to pass the test. But what makes it very hard to take that step back and look at bigger reality? Isn't it hard to step back? Because, we don't like that test. Even though we don't like that test, we get attached to it. We get that emotion of, oh, I don't like it. Or, it's so painful. That heart, in our heart, we grow those emotions and feelings. As a yogi, we want to live always even-minded and cheerful. I thought I was getting better. Well, maybe I am compared to the beginning of my spiritual journey. But lately, I felt that there is still some feelings, unresolved feelings or emotions, and it's very subtle, but it's there and it's keeping, it keeps building up in our hearts, in the corner of my heart. What to do? Then I started this practice. When I see that I'm feeling frustrated or when I'm feeling agitated, instead of saying, I feel stressed, I say, oh, Chika is feeling stressed. Okay, Chika is now feeling uncomfortable, or she's getting angry at this person. Very strangely, that sediment that was growing in my heart didn't increase. It's as if I'm watching a play, and Chika is one of the characters in that play. And that's what it is, isn't it? We are all playing a role in this life that is given by God. And maybe in the previous life we were playing a different role, different personality, different looks. So why do we get so attached to who we are right now? And when Chika feels agitated, why do I, the real true self, have to also suffer? No. Ego, this personality is part of ego, and it always demands attention. When some emotions comes up, ego is very good at detecting those things, and it grabs that emotion and say, look, see, we have to deal with this problem. Look at this. You have to do something. She's worried. I am worried. I am angry. But if you notice, if you can take a pause at that moment and say, it's happening, then you still have to go through the test or this experience, but you don't have to suffer necessarily. Tests come not to punish us, but to remind us what is real, the one reality that is God. God is waiting for us to choose Him over things of this world. Some of you might have experienced this, that in hospital there's a medical exam, the test that's called MRI. That's a they use magnetic field and radio waves to create the image of your organs inside and so forth. So my mother have gone through that a few times in the past, and every time she complains, this is the worst test. And last year I got to experience it, and I understood what she meant, because you basically lie down and you're put into this huge machine and they scan you. But inside there's huge sound going on all the time. And some of the sound are very low, heavy beat. Some are high pitch, random sound continuously going on. It's very disturbing, especially when you're sick. But when I went through that, though I could see how uncomfortable it could be, I didn't feel that, because throughout I was chanting Om Guru inside my head, keeping my attention at the point between the eyebrows. And I just felt so blissful. Those sounds didn't matter at all. And I felt this is very symbolic of any test that we go through. All disturbing things may happen around us or in our hearts, but if we keep our attention to God or to Guru, those things doesn't matter. You can be still in joy. You can be still happy. There's a story of a Sufi saint or woman saint. She and two disciples are talking about suffering. And the disciple, one of them, says, "He is no true lover of God who is not willing to suffer for God's sake." Meaning, if you're not willing to suffer for God, you're not really loving God. That's what one of the disciples said. The saint said, it's not like that. And it sounds egoic. That's what she said. The second disciple said, no. He has to be happy to suffer for God. Then we can say he loves God. Something is missing, the saint said. Then the saint said, he is no true lover of God who does not forget his suffering in contemplation of the divine beloved. If you truly love God, you forget. If you're thinking of God, if you're filled with the thoughts of God, you don't even notice. You will forget about the suffering part. Test is no longer that grim. Test becomes, you will probably even welcome the test when it comes. Where the thought of God exists, pain or suffering cannot exist. As Yogananda ji said, darkness cannot be driven out of a room with a stick. Once you turn on the light, the darkness will vanish as though it had never been. Where the light of God is, darkness cannot exist. So let's all remember to keep the thought of God, whatever the situation is, and we'll be able to go through and come out from the test joyfully. Thank you.
It is said in Bhagavad Gita that not a blade of grass moves without God's will. If that is true, it is true, then all the test and suffering a human being undergoes is also caused by God. That might be a very narrow understanding or a wrong way to look at it. The truth is, pain, it's inevitable. If we have a body, if we have likes and dislikes, we will feel a certain amount of pain when things don't go the way we want them to go. But suffering is optional. And test is just a wrong way of looking at the situation. people feel that this shouldn't be happening to me, then it becomes a test. If we can look at them as opportunities for growth, then the test will not exist anymore. There will only be an opportunity. And for spiritual aspirants, for yogis, the greatest test, or a test which they might face day to day basis, might be temptations. Temptations uh, where we want to do which we don't want to do. That power of temptation is actually a satanic force trying to get us off the path or trying to lower our consciousness. But Paramhansa Yogananda says that temptations are not strong. He in fact says that temptations were given to you not to destroy you, but to bring out the immortal strength which lies behind your little throbbing heart. A wrestler always fights with a stronger wrestler. You will never get stronger when you are fighting with a weaker wrestler. So you get stronger by fighting with a stronger wrestler, and by fighting through the temptations, we can bring out the infinite force which is already, infinite power of God which is already within us. But attitude is everything in the path of spirituality. With what attitude we should approach the test? First, we should have faith in God. Unshakable faith. Absolute faith. Faith has to be cultivated and nurtured. We cannot jump off the cliff saying that, oh, God will protect me. Now, Paramhansa Yogananda says that's stupidity, because God has given you common sense and reasoning ability to use it. But faith can be, we can take great saints' life, we can look into them, their life. For example, I would like you to tune into the faith Paramhansa Yogananda has in this particular episode. This is from The Penniless Boys in Vrindavan, from Autobiography of Yogi. So I will read out the conversation which happens between Paramhansa Yogananda, the then young boy Mukunda, who is just about 18 years old, and his elder brother. But try to tune in to the faith he has in God. So Ananta, Mukunda's elder brother, says, "It would serve you right if father disinherited you, Mukunda. How foolishly you are throwing away your life." The elder brother's sermon was assaulting my ears. "You well know, Ananta, I seek my inheritance from the Heavenly Father." Ananta replies, "Money first. God can come later. Who knows? Life may be too long." Mukunda replies, "God first. Money is his slave. Who can tell? Life may be too short." So you feel quite independent of father's wealth. Ananta's gaze was very stern and innocent as he resumed the conversation. And Paramhansa Yogananda replies, "I am conscious of my dependence on God." Words are cheap. Life has shielded you thus far. What a plight if you were forced to look to the invisible hand for your food and shelter. You would soon be begging on the streets. "Never," says Mukunda. "I would not put faith in passers-by rather than God. He can devise for his devotee 1,000 resources besides the begging bowl." More rhetoric, I suppose. I suggest that your wanted philosophy be put to a test in this tangible world. I would agree. Do you confine God to a speculative world? We shall see. Today you shall have opportunity to either to enlarge or confirm my own views. I propose that I send you and your fellow disciple Jitendra this morning to the nearby city Vrindavan. You must not take a single rupee. You must not beg, either for food or money. You must not reveal your predicament to anyone. You must not go without your meals, and you must not be stranded in Vrindavan. If you return to my bungalow here before 12 o'clock tonight, without having broken any rule of the test, I shall be the most astonished man in Agra. I accept the challenge. No hesitation was in my words or in my heart. Imagine, can we be able to say the same thing today or any time? But he didn't even hesitate, not even for a second. He did not think, he did not pray. He was so sure that God will help him out of this test. That faith we have to cultivate in our life. No matter what the test is, God is with us. He is right with us, observing and wanting to help us. Then why doesn't he help us? Because we don't let him to help us. Once Uddhava, a friend of Krishna, asked Krishna that Pandavas were your faithful followers, they were your devotees. Why did you trouble them so much? They lost everything and you were there doing nothing. And Krishna replied, really, what did I not do? And Uddhava said that, well, they were playing dice and they lost their kingdom, they were living in the forest. If you were always protecting your devotees, why did they face the test? And Krishna replied, well, Dharmaraj very clearly knew I was against gambling, but he still prayed and hoped and wished that I do not come into the hall when he was gambling. I had to respect my devotee's wish. And when he lost the dice game, Arjuna was upset. Bhima was yelling that I will break your leg, Duryodhana. None of them remembered me. And even his wife was shouting and yelling at the opponents, but she did not call me until at the last moment, and then I was able to intervene. Then I was able to come and help. I can help only when I am invited. And of course, Duryodhan did not know the dice game. He called his uncle Shakuni to play it. Why did not Dharmaraj call me? If I had been there, who do you think would have won the game? He did not invite me. So again Uddhava asks, so you will come only if invited, sir? But Krishna says, that's how it is. But look at it this way. If you are aware that I am always with you, how can you go amiss in your action? How can you even commit a sin? Just being aware that I am always available near you, with you, will make you will not be able to see the test. You will only be able to see my helping hand. To those who give everything in God's hand will see God's hand in everything they do. So tuning into the fact that God is the doer will help you to understand that He will work out the test for you. He will bring you out victoriously. But should there be a test? Should there be a suffering? Is there another route? Of course there's another route, where there is no suffering exists, which is practice of Kriya Yoga, burning of the vrittis which attracts these tests towards us. Once we are practicing Kriya Yoga faithfully and regularly, many tests, they are either removed from the obstacles are removed from our path, or even if they are here, we can rise above it very easily. For example, Mukunda in Autobiography of Yogi, he was supposed to be ailing with a disease in liver for 6 months, but it was brought down to a month by his Guru's grace. We can also call in the help of Guru, call in the help of God. Either the test is entirely taken away, the obstacle is entirely removed, or reduced to a great extent. But like the affirmation said, we should be awake and ready. We should be alert every time. Like a student, a good student who's ready to give an examination. Have you all seen Harry Potter movie where Hermione Granger, she's always looking forward for exams and challenges. When the professor asks a question, she would be the first one in the class. Sir, me, I want to answer. Because she's a good student. What does that mean to a yogi? Just like a good student who would prepare their homework, who do their homework every day, who would study every day, not waiting to the last moment, we should be yogis who meditate every day, expand our consciousness every day, not waiting till the day the test arrives at our doorstep. There might be a sudden pop quiz tomorrow morning. We want to come out victoriously. So meditate and prepare every day. And the right time to prepare for a test is when it's harmonious and when it's very nice. There's the story of an old man going into the sea, taking a group of teenagers decide to go into the sea for a day out. They would like to do whale watching. And the sky was clear. It was very nice day. These teenagers get into the boat and they are shouting. They are making fun of each other. The person owner of the boat who's going to take the boat into the deep waters was a wise man, and he was so these guys were looking at him. Hey grandpa, like, can we start right now? But the old man said, after I pray. And he took his time for a few minutes. He made a humble prayer that the journey should be safe. And the teenagers were, why is he even praying, like as though God exists? They did not believe God. So they go into the sea, and suddenly there's a thunderstorm. Now the boat is being tossed over in tall waves, rough waves. And the old man is very busy adjusting the mast, steering the ship, removing excess water off the deck. He was in action. And that's the time one of the teenagers say, oh my God, please save me, I will. And he turns to him and says, now is not the time to pray. Now is the time to act. So we need to be ready for the test before it happens. Meditating every day is the best way to be ready for the test. Above all, the best way to overcome a test is not to recognize it as a test. Focus on joy. Now, we will hear, if you are talking with, if you have read the books by Swami Kriyananda, or if you have had a chat with even Diane Keshwai, we will get to hear a lot of stories from early days of Ananda, when there was no money, there was no housing, they were all living in teepees, and at some point when we hear that story, we think that, oh my God, how many challenges have they faced? And Daya also once shared a story that one day she slipped and fell on the staircase and broke her nose. The next day she is wearing a band-aid across her nose, and she's on going on bike to Times newspaper to give an advertisement in the hot summer, and going around CP looking for the newspaper office. And when they came to India, they were living in Gurgaon. The power cuts were long. The facilities were not what they were used to. Again, when we think of those things, when we hear, our mind says, oh my God, how many challenges, how many tests they have crossed. But when you ask them, or when you say to any of them, oh, how many tests have you crossed? How many challenges? That is so awesome. Everyone by default will say, we were all with Swami Kriyananda. It was nice being with him. They focused on joy. They followed on joy. They focused on joy. And the more you focus on joy, there is more joy you feel. And being around Swamiji, who is Olympian meditator, always vibing with joy and high vibrations, none of these tests seemed as test or as challenging as it was. So focus on joy. One story I would like to conclude with. A saint was walking across a village, and there was a few boys playing around. And one boy playfully threw a stone at the saint. And when the saint turned and he saw this small boy smile at him, sheepishly, "Oh my God, I only threw it. I didn't actually mean to hit you." So the saint looks at the boy and smiles. Look how joyful this boy is. And now the other guys see it, other boys see the same thing, and they also start throwing. The saint is already in so bliss. He is looking at the boys laughing and jumping in happiness. He forgot. He couldn't even notice that he is the one who was being hurt. He just walked across the village, goes to his ashram, and his disciples were like so surprised to see him, hurt, blood, hurt with, and the blood stains on his robe. And they asked, "Master, what happened? Why are you bleeding?" And the saint said, "Oh, you should have seen those boys. They were throwing stones, they were laughing. It was so joyful." That is the way to live in the world. We have that option, and that joy and that bliss which the saint had, it is possible for us too. It is not only for the great masters to enjoy that joy. God has made that available to every one of us, and we can meditate, tune into the joy, and be so blissful, so joyful, and ask, "Test? What test?" There is no test. Thank you.